The Democrat Party is claiming Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and Kamala Harris are the future of the party. I'm going to argue why they're the past. Three diversity hires that were basically picked and promoted based on the last 4 years of really bad diversity hire thinking. And their way forward will likely be someone else who's not a lunatic, someone else who's probably a governor like a Gretchen Whitmer, Kathy Hochul, someone like that. Welcome to Doug in Exile. We're healing up still, looking good. You guys are coming in and subscribing at an unprecedented number. If you want to hear more about the news on the direction of the Democrat Party, the direction of Trump, whether if he's successful in it or not, and what America thinks about it. That's what I'm obsessed with. I'm a born-again Christian. I am the creator of famous video game titles like Earthworm Jim and The Neverhood. I did an animated series I created called Cat Scratch for Nickelodeon. I've done 22 long-form comic books that I've sold into Hollywood, and now I do news on YouTube. So I know a little something about culture and mass media. Here's our first article. This is just going to be a series of articles. I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. Here's Kamala could have won at the Prospect magazine. This is probably, I'm going to start with the dumbest article yet. She was poised to claim the presidency, but Joe Biden and a disastrous campaign defeated her. Look, she could have won. These balloons that are surrounding her have a higher IQ and are less inflated than her head. Kamala Harris was poised to win the 2024 presidential election when her message included America getting control of its border. Was that her message? And her championing economic and political change. So she wanted to champion economic change and distance herself from Joe Biden on the border. That was they claim, according to Chris Whipple in this book called Uncharted, that was her original plan. And then Joe Biden said, remember on The View, he said, no daylight between us. That is, you cannot show separation from Biden. And then Kamala Harris is claiming that's what killed her campaign. Just these people are delusional. What they can't do is look inside. This is the hardest thing to do because Democrat Party, leftism, progressivism, wokeism is either a virus or a cult of some kind that is inside of your own head. You have what's called cognitive dissonance. Like you come apart on the inside if you realize everything you believed was a lie. And the Democrat Party. So the last thing you'll give up is your core religious belief system. Democrats tend to be either pagans or atheists, and so they filled that gap that traditional religion would fill with a political party. Those of us on the right who are MAGA, you must be cautioned about doing the same thing. Your politics are not a replacement for your religion or belief in God, belief in Jesus Christ. Make sure that it doesn't start acting that way either, or you'll be in the same place as the Democrats. So now they're defending, they will not look inside and say all of the Democrat ideas are false. What we said about feminism is false. What we said about blacks is false. What we said about gays is false. What we said about transing kids is false. What we said about Trump just wanting to benefit the rich is false. What Bernie Sanders said that they're fighting oligarchy is false. That is, everything that they've said they fought, they actually embrace. Everything that they deny, that they really deny to embrace, they actually embrace, which is racism. Here's Politico's spin on it. It's all Biden. This is top Harris advisor blames former president for 2024 loss. So this is David Plouffe, which we've already done a lot on in yesterday's videos. If you want to do more backstory on this, take a look at angry Biden. Where am I? A top campaign aide for former Vice President Kamala Harris blames former Joe Biden for Harris's loss, saying, it's all Biden. It's all Biden. That's David Plouffe. Now, remember, David Plouffe was the campaign guy for Barack Obama's success. And then he skipped Joe Biden, and then he went back into Kamala Harris. She was supposed to be the second Obama. Okay. The perspective shared by David Plouffe, who worked on Harris' 2024 presidential campaign, underscores a frustration. Okay, this shows that they're dealing with a frustration. This is all hindsight. It's very important for them not to learn anything from this so they can reconstitute and launch a successful 2028 campaign. That's the only thing I'm looking for. Do Democrats ever truly introspect about what actually caused both Biden and Harris to lose and Trump to win? Wrong answers only, please. Thank you for supporting that concept, David Plouffe. A frustration held by some Democrats that Biden's reluctance to remove himself earlier from the White House race sealed the fate of Harris's bid. Now, that their claim is that if Biden had gone out earlier, and I just want you guys to test this theory. We're little scientists here. We're going to test the theory. Is it true? And so all you got to do is say, if Biden had gotten out earlier and gave Kamala Harris a longer runway, would she have won? Would she have made up, I would say, at least a 5% gap, but certainly by public standards, she was just an awful candidate. Would she have made up for it? If that's true, then the Democrats go, look, all of our policies are fine. It was just the timing thing. She just needed more time. Don't change any of the policies. And then if you believe that it's the policies that were wrong, then you go, you have to change the policies of the party. And they're not saying that. And sometimes it's just the candidate is an idiot, like Joe Biden is decrepit and can't talk, and Kamala Harris does word salad and can't talk. So you go, look, if we had the right timing and the right policies, and we're not going to change those, you just need to slot in a Tom Hanks and you'll win. That's the theory. On the future of the Democrat Party, who do they pick? They're pitting AOC against Kamala Harris, which I argue are two loser diversity hires that have, I think AOC is way too radical. So again, wrong policies, but it's obvious she and Bernie Sanders are going to be pretty top contenders in 2028. And we'll see if the Democrats ever learn from that. AOC's chances of leading Democrats compared to Kamala Harris. This is a poll by Newsweek that they took. You know, it's a pretty simple taste test. Pick one or the other, a new poll. That there is no clear consensus among likely voters for who the next face of the Democrat Party will be. However, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has emerged as the front runner over former Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, I'm going to argue that this means nothing because if you look at who's done more TV in the last month, remember Bernie Sanders and AOC did the anti-oligarchy tour, got a lot of press on the left to the lefty voters. Kamala Harris, she did like one talk and she looked terrible and embarrassing. So even though they're saying it's close, it's not indicative, they're going, yeah, it looks like AOC kind of is a favorite. No, it just means your side still watches a lot of mainstream media, which is why it's mostly boomers and ancient, burned with taking too much acid hippies now in their 70s, promoting the left and opposing Tesla. There's not a bunch of 18-year-olds out there. Newsweek reached out to Democrat National Committee via online from Wednesday for comment, but they didn't get anything back because they were too busy trying to remove David Hogg. Democrats have seemingly been in disarray since losing the White House, Senate, and Congress after the election. Uproar over certain policies and uncertainty about which figureheads to get behind within the party have frayed internal cohesion. That means there is no clarity on one direction to go. They're back to throwing spaghetti against the wall. They're going to try anything and see who emerges. By the way, this is what politics generally looks like because experts are almost always wrong. Pundits, wrong. Polls, wrong. Even my own predictions, wrong. I didn't see Trump coming twice. Most of us are like, I mean, I supported him, but you just go, can he do it? Will he do it? Is he going to do it? And you're still going like, I'm cautious because I don't know. And in both those chances, if you go like, well, it's going to be Trump versus DeSantis. I did not predict that Trump would smear the floor with DeSantis. I thought DeSantis had a fighting chance. He did not in hindsight. So very hard to predict just how powerful even the winners are when you go, well, that should be obvious. Here is the awful LA Times on looking good for Kamala Harris in California, not so much for Karen Bass. A poll shows This is the new LA Times, where they're willing to check in on both sides, which I think is a very wise move for their product. California voters have sharply differing views over two of the state's most important prominent Democrats, according to a new poll. Former Vice President Kamala Harris, who is expected to decide by the end of the summer whether she runs for California governor in 2026 to replace Gavin Newsom, has near universal name recognition among California voters, and 50% view her favorably. That means there's a lot of Democrats that don't view her favorably, because California is more than a 50% liberal state. According to a survey by UC Berkeley's Institute of Governmental Studies that was co-sponsored by The Times. So these are all lefty polls. In contrast, California voters, notably residents of LA, of Los Angeles, are more likely to view Mayor Karen Bass unfavorably in the aftermath of the devastating fires. So even the hard left Democrats in California don't like her. And then here's our last article on Jasmine Crockett. Points to Kamala Harris's role as a prosecutor as the reason why she had trouble with black men. Again, wrong answers only. Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Democrat of Texas, pointed to former Vice President Kamala Harris' role as a prosecutor on Monday as a reason why she didn't perform well with black men in the 2024 election. Whereas Trump was a felon, I'll add. So is that why he did well with black men? Maybe black men just like closing the border. Maybe black men like lower taxes. Maybe like black men. I haven't met a black man that liked the idea of the state taking his kid away and transing him without his permission. So maybe black conservative values are just the same as white conservative values. We are united on our values. And Kamala Harris is still playing the race game and is wrong. So wrong answers only. She believes Kamala Harris, what? She would have won if she wasn't a prosecutor against crime, against and jailing blacks. You think she would have won? Jasmine Crockett, totally wrong answer, totally wrong take. And we give you the right answer and the right take. That's why I appreciate your viewership. I thank you all for being in the Quad Club as we continue to document Wheelchair Auto Pen's disastrous presidency of the last four. That's what we call Joe Biden, Wheelchair Auto Pen. And we remind you to never put an X next to a Democrat. Subscribe. I'm Doug in Exile.